What up, world? Welcome to episode 149 of the Blunt Talk Sports Podcast, NFL Week 11 recap. Happy to be back with you guys as always. I'm your host, Anthony Wright, coming to you from the beautiful and comfortable confines of Atlantic City, New Jersey. Wherever you may be watching or listening, I thank you as always. Like, share, and subscribe. It helps the channel. Jumping into this episode, guys. This episode is going to be the Week 11 recap. I took my time, went over the notes as usual, delivering you guys my full analysis and full takes on another crazy week of football. Like I said, a lot of things to get into, so I'll definitely make sure we get into it and definitely cover all bases and topics. I mean, from the Chiefs, all the way to the Packers and Giants, all the way down to Commies and Dolphins. So got a lot of things to really get into. But before we do, definitely make sure we want to give a shout out to some of our friends of the show. If you guys are familiar with the show, definitely check out StubHub and Viagogo, the number 1 and number 2 leading ticket resellers in the world to live events, shows, and concerts. There's a plethora of events here currently available for you on the screen. Definitely want to make some of your time, make some of your holiday season. Don't forget to check it out. Also, for my avid PlayStation subscribers, we all know Black Friday's coming up, holiday season's coming up. Got a big surprise for you guys here, as you will see on the screen. Black Friday promo for PlayStation Direct. I implore you guys to check in the description box for the links within this video. If you're trying to get anything, consoles, games, anything for your kids, possibly anything, grandkids, anything to make your Christmas better, just to make their Christmas better, get them something they want off the list and just to enhance their PlayStation experience, I implore you to check it out. Sony PlayStation, more than a game. All right, guys, so going into this video, like I said, Week 11 recap, we're going to start off with Broncos and Chiefs. Now, the Broncos were able to pull out this victory 22-19, defeating the Chiefs in a hard-fought game. Both offenses look pretty stagnant. Typical division game, when you kind of know each other, is kind of counteracting the best moves. But ultimately, the Chiefs were left with a lot of answers, a lot of questions and no answers, and the Broncos were left with some answers. That being said, pure takeaway from the game. The Kansas City Chiefs are in trouble. You'd be a fool to not think that. I mean, let's just, brass tacks. The game started out pretty rough, tough. It came down to a lot of field goals. Guys had to kind of, earn points. But it seemed like once Denver woke up and got it going, there really wasn't an answer for what they were doing by Kansas City. And I give Kansas City's defense a lot of credit. Kansas City's defense has really been tested, for lack of better words, throughout the season. They've really had to try to, they've been pretty much held to the old mantra or standard that they have been for the past several years. This is not the same defense. It's really clearly on the offense to really score a lot of points and the defense to protect the lead. This Kansas City team just does not have it. I understand that, right now they're the defending AFC champions. They can't be slept on. They're not a team that you could definitely think is, could easily just be beat. But signs would indicate this year they are clearly not that same team. Since the Super Bowl, they've been a broken team. You're kind of waiting to see if they get hot, but you're just not really sure. And right now, a lot of unanswered questions for Kansas City. And if you're Denver, definitely happy that you pulled out the victory. Another game where the offense left a lot to be desired. I mean, Bo Nix, 24-37, 295 yards, but no touchdowns, no picks. You're definitely happy with that. RJ Harvey, rushing wise, you really didn't get much. Once, J.K. Dobbins went down, it's really been pretty much on RJ Harvey to really carry the load. Him, McLaughlin, a couple of guys, just really, running game really wasn't there for Denver. And receiving wise, they've pretty much been doing it by committee. It's been a little bit of everybody doing things, but they're going to have to play better if they're going to expect to do any damage in the AFC. Everyone believes that Denver is a dark horse to pretty much win the conference. With the defense they have and the coaching experience that they have, it's very much possible. However, we all know it only takes one game, one bad moment, several turnovers, one bad quarter, one bad half, and you're out of the postseason. So a lot to digest there, but for the Broncos, definitely on their path. Collision course with the Chargers for the AFC West. And if you're the Chiefs, you're pretty much just shooting for the wild card. I mean, division is definitely out of whack. You're not winning that at this point. And if you lose another game, you're pretty much in, real, jeopardy of not making the playoffs, which to say Andy Reid and, Pat Mahomes not making the playoffs a thing is crazy, but stranger things have happened. Just kind of, if you're really, if you're Kansas City, you're really hoping that you can kind of get things together and get things going quickly, because it is just, offensively. And you kind of thought with Rashee Rice coming back, with some of the moves that they made, they were going to be better on offense. They have just not been as effective as they needed to be. And it's really a situation where now they got to win out. And if they don't win out, like I said, a legitimate chance that they will miss the postseason, which if you would have asked us at the beginning of the year, no one, and I mean no one, would have sat there and said to you that they either one of these, well, especially the case of the Chiefs, would have been missing the postseason, especially after the year they had, the legacy, the tenure. But we have to be honest, they're starting to wear down. They're starting to get to a point where they're not able to pull out those close games anymore. I mean, last year they were 6-2 in close games. This year they're 0-5. You know, different team. The shelf life is probably done. You're going to have to definitely retool this team in the offseason. But as of now, you got to do what you can to try to make a run. I just think that, honestly, the juice is probably squeezed out of this orange. Next, we're going to talk about Giants and Packers. Packers won this one in a thriller, 27-20 in the Meadowlands this past Sunday. Needless to say, this game reeked of upset most of the game. The Giants did everything they possibly could, led by Jameis Winston, to do what they needed to win the game. But be that as it may, the Packers were the better team, and the better team ultimately prevailed. You know, again, you kind of just felt like the whole game, Giants are doing it, but you just kind of felt like, yeah, that mistake's coming. That mistake is definitely coming. And it came, least when the Giants least expected it, when they least needed it. You even had a scare from Green Bay. They had a lot of injuries throughout this game. Josh Jacobs got injured, had to leave the game. Jordan Love had to leave the game for a period of time. He eventually came back and finished the game. Malik Willis had to step in for a couple snaps. It's just, it's one of those things where the Packers were really looking like they were looking down the barrel of the gun beginning of the game. It did not look good for them at all. That being said, they were able to pull out this victory, 27-20. Offensively, showed up late. Christian Watson putting up a decent performance. Let's see here. He had 4 catches, 53 yards. Now, again, 46 yards, 53 yards was accredited to Romeo Doubs. Again, not the performance you would have expected from the receiving corps, but you got to give credit to the Giants defensive line. They made life hell for Jordan Love. They weren't going to allow him to just single-handedly sit from that pocket comfortably and beat them. So you got to give them credit for that. This offense is definitely missing Tucker Kraft. I mean, that is without saying, certain short yardage situations are a lot harder than what they should be. For the Giants, I'm not going to rag on them. To be 2-9 and to be as competitive as they have been, to still be fighting in games, give them all the credit in the world. They're definitely looking forward to 2026. For the Packers, you needed this victory. Lost to Philly, lost the game prior to that. You really needed to really kind of, get an injection of some good energy in the locker room. So be that as it may, we'll check with the situation with Josh Jacobs. Key takeaways, though, ultimately from this Packers-Giants game. One, the Packers' run defense was atrocious in this game. I mean, they were downright fucking horrible. I'm going to look here, get the final stats for you, but I know for a fact Tyrone Tracy had over 100 yards himself. He had 88 yards. They gave up over 142 yards rushing on defense. So clearly it just tells you what type of game it was for the Packers. Couldn't stop the run. And then when you're allowing Jameis Winston to dink and dunk down the field, down the field, it just puts you in a precarious situation. The Giants will definitely be better next year. Not sure if they're going to keep Jameis Winston. That'd be my second takeaway. That's really it for that game because, if the Packers had lost this game, I would argue that Matt LaFleur was getting fired. There was no way in hell that you were going to justify consistently, coming out there and saying that we're going to play tough, we're going to play physical, we're going to do all the necessary requisite things, and then you're not. They looked outmatched for 3 quarters. This team finally showed up when it counted, when most needed. So you got to give the Packers complete credit there. But Matt LaFleur has to do a better job of coaching this team. This team is just, they've not played well at all as of late. Offensively, they struggle. I mean, again, to get 27 points, to struggle to get 27 points against a Giants team where, let's be honest, they're not even close to being anywhere on the level of the Green Bay Packers, says enough right there in itself. You're definitely left with a lot of questions. That run defense, now you're going to have games where you give up, rushing yards, but to give up 142 yards rushing, 88 yards to Tyrone Tracy alone, where it was just tough physical running, where it just seemed like the guys weren't winning, matchups that they commonly do win, leaves you for a lot left to be desired. But again, got to be happy for Green Bay to pull out the victory. And then you're looking forward to pretty much the playoffs and just, where you may fall, because I don't think Green Bay is going to win the division. However, I do think that they're going to wind up somewhere in the middle as far as the playoff standing. So remains to be seen. Things are still playing out, so we shall see. Next game we're going to get into is Steelers and Bengals. Now, this game obviously was wrought with a lot of controversy for a lot of different reasons. Obviously, the spitting incident between Jamarr Chase and Jalen Ramsey. I'll touch on that in a brief second. But ultimately, the game itself, Steelers were able to pull out the victory 34-12. I mean, we need to just say it for what it is. Without Joe Burrow, I mean, Joe Flacco can help this team stay afloat. This defense is horrible. I mean, that Bengals defense is fucking atrocious. You get damn near 100 yards out of Chase Brown. You got Joe Flacco, 40 attempts, damn near 200 yards on a windy day in Pittsburgh. On receiving core wise, let's just say Jamarr Chase did not have the game he expected to have. 10 targets, 3 catches each. T. Higgins, 8 targets, 3 catches, 63 yards, only touchdown from the receiving core. Just not the offensive showing that you wanted. And obviously defensively, we know this team leaves a lot to be desired. I mean, again, you get 1 sack on the whole game. You only got 3 passes defended, 4 QB pressures. I mean, you're just not doing anything. It's not doing anything. I mean, and then of course, and Trey Hendrickson is just fucking intelligent as hell. Do not put yourself out there until you're healthy. This team doesn't want to pay you, so do not go out there and risk harm, life and limb. And clearly, without them being out there, they're just not the same. And then Aaron Rodgers, of course, battling with the injury. All Steelers fans were alleviated to know that, it was just a slight break in the wrist. It's nothing that's going to require surgery. That being said, it looks like Mason Rudolph is going to get the start. I'm here to tell you, and I have no reason to lie to you. I don't want to lie to you. The Steelers, if you're expecting them to do much of shit going into the postseason, don't. This team is just wrought with old age, sometimes ineptitude, and just being a slave to Aaron Rodgers. And I get it. Aaron Rodgers has helped make this team look better. By proxy of the season that the Ravens and Bengals have had, you've been able to secure first place in the AFC North. It's going to be a fight with the Ravens until the end for that division. Understandable. That being said, though, Mason Rudolph is not even close to the quarterback that Aaron Rodgers is, even currently at this juncture. He was able to, now again, without shitting on the man completely and throwing him to the wolves, he was 12-16 in this game, 127 yards. He did have a touchdown. But you're playing the Bengals when they already have been beaten up and bloodied, bludgeoned. He's got to play a full game. We'll see how this plays out, but you're going to play a Bills team that's going to be pissed off after the loss they just had. You got the Ravens coming up after that, cakewalk against the Dolphins, and then you got the Lions. Needless to say, we're going to be very, very closely monitoring that Aaron Rodgers risk, because I don't think the Steelers are going to last if he's not able to play within the next 2 games. I don't see them beating the Bills, and I don't see them beating the Ravens. Being completely honest, they can beat the Bills, but they don't run the ball well enough to beat Buffalo, so we'll see. But key takeaways from this game were very simple. Steelers will definitely have some questions to address, regarding how they play through the Aaron Rodgers and even the Jalen Warren injury, because even he walked out with an injury in that game. Didn't look good. If you're Pittsburgh, you definitely can't be sustaining these injuries right now. It's definitely while you're in the midst of a playoff hunt, while you're trying to, lock up the division. But definitely happy with the victory. Put a nail in the Bengals' coffin, essentially put them to bed, put them away. As far as the AFC North is concerned, there's no way they could come back and possibly win the division. Even making a wild card berth, they're going to need a lot of teams to stumble for them to really make this. And I just don't see it happening for them. And it's really all their fault. The Bengals just sit Burrow. I mean, I know he's practicing. I know T. Higgins gave comments the other day about him playing and him possibly being in the game. Joe Burrow doesn't need to be playing right now for this team. This team is going to get him re-injured. They're going to get fans gassed up. They're going to get people believing again that they can really do it. And in all honesty, they're nowhere near close to winning anything. I mean, hell, if I'm Joe Burrow, I'm looking at that offensive line. I'm looking at how this team's playing. And I know that most people will say, well, that's quitting on your team. That's some weak shit. You don't do that. I understand. It's not happening this year. It's not happening this year. Also, obviously, we think it's going to be Steelers and Ravens for the North. Jamarr Chase. Now, I understand, a man's, talking shit to you, crack black block. you're dealing with an old school player in Jalen Ramsey who's physical, fierce, definitely will get in your face and fight and handle shit the way, accordingly in the ways it's been done prior to him even being in the league. That being said, spitting in a man's face is a no fucking go. Jalen Ramsey, said the most proper words afterwards. Fuck football. This at the end of the day, like, when you take it outside of the lines of football and you take it to a point where you feel like you can spit on me and there's no ramifications for that, I mean, that's just fucking egregious. Glad that the NFL suspended him. Possibly should have been suspended for 2 games, but I'm glad they suspended him for a game. He's losing, I think, roughly a little under $500,000 for not playing in this game. So a lot of things to unpack there, a lot of things to get into, but. And now on to Commanders and Dolphins, which actually was a pretty boring fucking game for about 3 quarters. And essentially came down to the 4th quarter where the Dolphins were able to pull it out 16-13. You had a game where it was pretty much 2 bad teams playing. You pretty much see all the reasons of why both teams were 3-7 coming into the game. Dolphins obviously now being 4-7, Commanders being 3-8. It's a wash season for both teams. I give the commies all the credit in the world. They're still trying to play. They're still trying to, fight, even with Jane Daniels' injury, even with all the litany of things they've had going on. But they're not a good team, as I pretty much predicted throughout the whole season they weren't going to be. They have not been a good team. The Dolphins deserve even more credit. The fact that they've consistently just played throughout, all of this, just not quitting. Through all the bullshit they've gone through, knowing for a fact that their coach is getting fired, losing the GM, who rightfully so should have been fired. Just, again, having a situation where you're just not sure what is coming next or how things may play out. You got to give the Dolphins a shitload of credit. I don't know if this helps Mike McDaniel retain his job. I don't know if it's in one of those situations where he's going to be okay going forward. Financially he will be, obviously. But I don't know. Maybe he goes back to being an offensive coordinator after this year. But you have to ask yourself, and it's something to think about, if he does salvage this team where they end up game behind 500, a game below 500, do you necessarily fire him? I mean, I think regardless, he's going to get fired just because of how things played out. But you really think about it, he's been one of the driving, steadying forces for this team, surprisingly. And they just have not given up on him. And it's a great thing to see. But yeah. It's a lot to really unpack there with that Miami situation. A lot of those answers probably won't come into the offseason, but we shall see. And last but not least, we're going to touch on Cowboys and Raiders, which was the Monday Night Football game. The Cowboys utterly fucking destroyed the Raiders 33-16, beating a bad football team when they needed to. It was a little crazy because at first CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens were benched on the first drive of the game. Didn't play, eventually came out there. CeeDee Lamb went off, obviously having a monster game. George Pickens had a monster game. CeeDee Lamb had a touchdown. But George Pickens, 9 receptions, 144 yards. Definitely playing for that contract. Don't know if it's going to keep him in Dallas going into next year, but he is definitely playing for some more money, and he looks the part. Dak Prescott, got to give him credit as well. 25 for 33, 4 touchdowns, 268 yards passing. If you're the Raiders, I would argue you probably just need to disband this team for another 2 or 3 years and just, not pop back up until then when some of your counterparts in the AFC have fallen off, because this team is just horrible. They are nowhere. This has been an experiment that has just failed. Pete Carroll bringing in Chip Kelly as offensive coordinator, Geno Smith being brought in as a quarterback, which I really feel like is the ultimate problem when it comes to the Raiders as a team. Geno Smith is just not good. He's just not good. Wouldn't trust him to throw a ball 10 yards, on a clear day. Damn sure wouldn't trust him in a tight game where, they actually were in it. Believe it or not, if you look at the score, it doesn't look that way, but they actually were in it for the first, quarter of this game. You can't trust them. And they've definitely got a lot of things to digest there. Need a quarterback, need help along the offensive line. You have Brock Bowers, you have Ashton Genty, you have Max Crosby. That's about it. And, Raiders fucking suck. Dallas, you got Philadelphia this week, so obviously, big rivalry game. But, they completely eviscerated this team. And that's going to do it for this episode, guys. As always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I love you guys for plugging in. Take care and enjoy the rest of your weekend.